Here we go again. Flight Noob 3. Let's fly. Hopefully not crash. Last time we crashed. Landing gear malfunction. Totally my fault. But today, I'm hoping we don't crash. You can respawn in this game, you cannot respawn in real life. Got a couple extra things I want to try today that I didn't try last time. Going to build a flight plan so we actually know what runway to land at, how to approach that runway. Gonna fly over New York City. If we're not too high to even see it, I don't even know. But I got a route set up. We're gonna go from Martha's Vineyard to Newark in New Jersey. So it's about a 30-minute flight, 166 nautical miles. We're gonna be taking the TBM 930. This is a prop plane, a very fast prop plane. I mean, 330 knots. That's about as fast as some jets. I think the aviation's 451, so that's pretty damn fast. Got a range of 1,730 nautical miles in the endurance of 5 hours, so it'll be plenty for our trip. What I actually want to do is I want to do this properly. So we're actually going to build. That's a live plane right there. We're going to build a flight plan, and we're going to base it off of runway 24 going southwest, and we're going to bring up some utilities to help us with that. First thing we're going to need to do is create a flight plan. So this website's free. It's called SimBrief. It'll let you create a flight plan. A lot of this information we're not going to have because this is not a real life scheduled flight, but we do have depart and arrival times as well as taxi in, taxi out runways, what's called VOR indicators, which are pretty much just waypoints that are going to help us get to our destination. Actually get that information from Flight Sim. So this is KMVY, which is Martha's Vineyard. So we're going to depart KMVY. We're going to arrive at... Now this will actually give you GPS navigation. You don't have to have a flight plan, but we want to make this realistic. So KEWR is Newark. KEWR. Boom. So we're going to go ahead and get a pretty bog standard route. Here's our waypoints, also known as VORs, and this is going to give us a nice little set of waypoints to go on. So this is how you know like what runway to land at, how to get there. Is these waypoints? They kind of navigate you to how you need to be headed to get to that particular runway. So this airport is KEWR. I'm actually going to go ahead and get a diagram for it. There's a diagram for Martha's Vineyard. We already know what runway we're taking off on that. And let's see here. Airnav.com is also free. EWR. And this will give us an airport diagram. So this is Newark. Let's get a PDF of the diagram of the airport. We can get an idea of kind of how we're going to be coming in. So we have this runway up here. This top runway. Although I'm not seeing a runway name, we can get that information from SkyVector. This is also really good. So all this information you have to have ahead of time before you can even plan your route, right? So we're going to go ahead and say Martha's Vineyard K, what is it, K? KMVY. So we're leaving KMVY. To Newark. This is a very generic kind of point A to point B. But what I want to do is I want to actually get close to this airport here. I want to see what this diagram is going to tell us. And this is free as well, skyvector.com. So you can see this map. It's very busy map. It's very difficult to read. But what's important right now is we're looking at elevations. So if you look at these numbers here, there's like 17 right next to Newark. There's that 20 to the left there. That is actual altitude indicators. So that's 2,000 feet. It looks like this is very low elevation because it's almost sea level. So as long as we're above 2,000 feet, we're not going to have any problems. But if I zoom into the Newark airport, you can see this runway strip on top here. It's almost like a T. That's probably the one that's going to navigate us into. And we can get an RNAV, a radio navigation GPS listing for that particular runway, which is what we're going to do. Let's actually go back into Flight Simulator and let's zoom in on that runway. I mean, real life, it doesn't matter where you get the information, as long as you have the information so you know how to land. This is going to be runway 11. So let's go back to our flight plan. And we're going to arrival runway is going to be 11. It is actually going to automatically set our waypoints for us. It's going to probably change them a bit, just based off of positioning us to where we can take off at runway 11. And our departure runway, let's see here. In real life, you wouldn't have a video game to tell you. You'd have to look up manual maps like this. So we gotta go back. What's Martha's Vineyard? KMVR. Nope. This stuff's pretty boring, you know? It'll put you to sleep because what actually goes into flying is so much more than just grabbing the yoke and taking off. You have to plan it out properly. So we're taking off from KMVY, which is Martha's Vineyard. Take a look at that airport real quick. So it's a very straightforward diagram. Look at that, 2 runways. It's all they have there. I'm not even sure where it's at. Massachusetts. I mean, it's its own little island. It's pretty cool. They have an airport there. Elevation 66 foot, 66 feet. So that's right on the ocean, essentially. Yeah, they got 2 runways, runway 24 and runway 6. And they do have PAPI lights, alright? So PAPI lights are this little horizontal light strip when you're landing. And you have 4 lights. And if all 4 of them are white, you're too high. If one's red, you're good. And as you click close to the ground, you'll get 2 red, 3 red, 4 red, and that's when you know you're going to be touching down. And that's used for VFR, or Visual Flight Rules. Not sure it would matter for what's called Instrument Flight Rules, or IFR, which is essentially when a plane does ILS landing, or Instrument Landing Systems. The planes can actually land themselves using ILS. I'm not there yet. I'll get there. But today we're going to be using VFR rules for the approach. And normally you can actually go into the plane, all right, and you can actually build the flight plan in the GPS on the plane. That's very tedious. We're not going to do that. I'm actually going to go ahead and generate a real flight plan with this, and I'm going to download it. I'm going to import it directly into Flight Simulator, so it's already in our GPS. So I don't have to walk. It takes about half an hour to build a manual flight plan, because you have also routines you got to program in. You got to program a departure routine and a landing routine. So the GPS knows where you're going. It knows what waypoint, what altitude, at what time. It's all very organized. That's how planes don't crash into each other. They're very organized. So let's go ahead and get our runway information. Alright, so try to wrap us around and land us at runway 11, which I think the flight planner actually already has. Yeah. So this is pulled from real life data. And if you look down here, it says your route is valid. So this could actually be used for real life Flight planning, obviously, you get your flight plan from the airport. They're the ones that call the shots when it comes to scheduling. But this is a valid flight plan. And it will generate the flight plan. It's pretty much what they see with the manual printout. Very realistic. Units, pounds. So we're going to take some extra fuel. I'm not going to put in the flight plan. No one's going to be looking at that. I don't have a boss to answer to. It's going to ask why I used so much fuel, or none of that matters. Passengers, don't have any passengers. There are sites you can actually go to get simulated passengers that actually have weight, and you have a load balance you have to deal with. And that can get tricky, because if you have American passengers, you can't have a full tank of gas because it's going to be too much weight. Little stuff like that you would never think of, but it's important. So K-Boss is an alternative route, and K-Boss is actually Boston. Just making sure that we have our plan correct. Departure runway 15, let's verify that. This is a 30-minute jaunt. It'll be pretty relatively straightforward. Runway 15 is a little too short. That's one thing you have to deal with in real life, is making sure that you have enough runway for the plane you have. And the more weight you have, the more runway space you need. So we're going to actually take off on runway 24 southwest. So let's change that real quick. 24. Yeah, it's going to give us some nav points. And here's the general gist of it. So we're going to taxi do no alternate. Let's go ahead and update this. Alright, let's analyze the route. We're good. Check the map again. There we go, okay. Now we're flying from Martha's Vineyard. So we actually set the aircraft, which we're using this TPM 900 series. It's going to give us a set of the set profiles to go on. I think we probably have what we need. Make sure here, that's... It's got us going in a strange departure pattern. Not real sure. It should have us going out and about, out and around. We'll load this into flights. We'll load this in Flight Simulator. We'll generate the flight path, or the flight plan. It'll tell us what to do then. And then we can look at it and see what the hell it's wanting us to do. All right. And there's our flight plan. See here. I mean, look how big this thing is. It's massive. So here's a preview of what a flight plan looks like. It is ridiculous. Look at this. And what we actually care about is towards the end. It's going to be a little diagram for us. And there's wind speeds. So here's descent. Here's the... It's a very steep climb. Wow, look at that. It's very steep. We can actually adjust these too. We can adjust the altitudes that we climb to these VORs at. But it's good enough for me. It's kind of a really, really steep turnaround. That doesn't matter. So instead of putting all this in the manual, which takes a half an hour to do, I'm just going to see about importing it right into FS 2020, which is download. And there it is. Now we come back here, we can go ahead and load this flight plan right into the game. Game appears to be locked up. This game's kind of buggy. You know, it just came out. Unbelievable. Not responding. Yep, it's gone. So we have to close it out and try again. Wow, that's terrible. All right, let's relaunch it. It's a live stream. Shit happens. Game loads so slow too. So every time I do a Flight Noob video, the goal is to have something new to show. Anyone can launch this game, put the game in arcade mode, and fly a plane. Hell, you could actually even fly a plane with an Xbox 360 controller or Xbox One controller. And it's got modes for all difficulties, but I have everything on maximum simulation, because why would you buy a flight sim if you're not going to treat it like a simulation? But don't get me wrong, it can be fun to fly around cities, see things that you've never seen before, or see your home, for example, from the air. It's really cool. A lot of people do that, but there's nothing to do in this game but fly. There's no arcade games here, so I try to treat it like a simulator the best I can. And one thing I've learned about flying is that it's a chore. It's not fun. It's something that you really got to want to do. It's not something that you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of at some point. It's going to be just an absolute chore. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of details. You miss the terrain data. You know, you got TAS systems, terrain avoidance systems, and that can help you from crashing into a mountain, but ultimately you don't want to have to rely on TAS. You want to have that route planned. You want to know the elevation. You want to know, what could possibly get in your way. You also have to plan for weather, which we're not really going to do. But, you might have a license that's VFR only, and you might arrive at your location, and it could be cloudy, it could be foggy, it could be storming. And if you don't have an IFR certification, you've never trained for it. That's really bad. That can turn into fatal really quickly. So, really have to admire what these pilots do. Let's try loading the flight plan. There we go. Bingo. So there's all of our visual reference points. You can actually see it. It takes us right into this runway. One thing it doesn't do, it doesn't. This is not lining me up directly with that runway, so we're actually going to have to make a little steep turn. So what's up with the plan for? We actually have to come in, and we're probably going to go this way and then kind of turn into it. Let's see here. Now I could add a waypoint. I could actually create, put the Essex County in there. That's something I might do once I load the game, because this screws it all up whenever you do something. But we can actually add a picture of that, because we're going to add that as a waypoint in between to help us kind of navigate around. Let's take a look at our departure. Yep. It's an immediate bank turn and heading towards this VOR. Let's go ahead and fly it. Now it's going to set us on the runway. Typically, we would be at a gate, and we would have to taxi to the runway. But if I change this, Probably going to jack it completely up. We can try. For example, ramp 7. How about do ramp 2? So, it did change our flight plan. So we're not going to go with that. It changed the entire flight plan, that one little setting. Like I said, this game's still very buggy. It should not do that, but it's fine. Let's get flying. Talking too much about this. I want to get going. Alright, let's just fly. Limitations are there. You know, it's almost better to go into the system, the computer in the system, in the plane itself, and put these in there ourselves. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to add that waypoint towards the end, because that'll kind of arbitrarily take us in the direction we want to go. We're going to have the bank left for that runway. In real life, you would spend some time kind of modifying the flight plan to do that, and putting in different waypoints inside that flight plan creator. I'm going to spare you because it's a lot of work. Shut up! Alright. So here we go. Typically you go through a checklist, you know, so not super realistic right now. But it's a lot of time for no reason. This isn't real life. So. Checklist is pretty in-depth. I really like it, actually. It shows you where everything's at. If I click on little eye here, you know, it'll show us where everything's at. So we're good there. We can check that off. Brakes, not gonna release those yet. Let's hide the yokes. Alright, that's good. Rotation, speed, well, we're not moving, so. Flaps would need to be in landing position, not up. Alright, screw that. We're not going to do the checklist because we're not at the gate. So, flaps are in takeoff. Let's go ahead and turn the speed bugs on. Go back. Let's view our flight plan. Really? So that you can load a flight plan in the flight simulator, and it honors the flight plan, but it doesn't actually put the flight plan. Oh, wait a minute, there it is. Okay. Wow, this is buggy. Really buggy. Nice. So, okay, we can scroll down. In theory. So we can see all, you see, these are called VORs, or visual reference points. And we can actually see here each one and the altitude we need to be at for that particular VOR. So this gives us a ascend and descend profile by default. So we don't have to worry about, you know, when do I start descending, how low do I have to be. You start seeing these on the map, you'll know that's where you need to be. And what actually helps out a lot is that in addition to flight plans, you have procedures, you have departure procedures. And there aren't any loaded in here. We can actually go ahead and load those. That might give us a better illustration on the display here, the VFD. How to kind of go about getting into the pattern to get out of this runway, the pattern for landing, etc. So, let's go back to our flight plan real quick. This is for Martha's Vineyard. No, this is for Newark. That's fine, we need this as well. Let's see here. Where's the actual flight plan? And if you look up on the flight plan, you can actually see all these altitudes as well. It's kind of hard to read, but here's the here's all the VORs, and here's the lat longs of those VORs, and here's the altitude. You'll see 1,600. That's 1,600 foot. That's 14,000 feet, 16,000 feet, 16,000, 160, 16,000, all the way down. And eventually, it takes us down to the ground, which is 32 foot above, or 320 foot above sea level. Let's go back to our actual edit our flight plan. Oh shit, that might actually tell us. Hold on. Yeah. So let's go back to edit flight plan. Arrival runway 24 to 11. Okay, so we're gonna arrive 24 departure runway. It's not loading any sequences for that departure. None of these are working. That's okay. That's special. Oh, that's working. Whatever. There's only two runways here. They're not gonna have enough traffic at Marth'a Vineyard for this to be a problem, to need a procedural. ILS. We're not using ILS. Can I please grab that? Can I please? No. There we go. Was it RNAV 11, right? Radio navigation. RNAV sense radio navigation. It's just GPS. We're arriving at 11. That's good. That's great. It's delete iTunes. Back to our flight. Right, so there's the sequence. Let's load that. Now, if we go back, our flight plan, those new ones should have loaded in there. It's a whole bunch. Holy crap, there's a whole bunch in there. This is frustrating. You sleep yet? So here's our approach to runway 11, and there's the additional in here. So we can actually zoom out of this map and we can take a look. And it's confusing to deal with a departure sequence in a landing approach sequence. It's confusing to deal with that because they also use VORs and have to deal with the flight plan, which also uses VORs as well as airport as well. We really can't see what it's going to do for us at the end here. It's kind of limited. A lot of these planes, they don't have really good technology. Like, this is not a touch screen. You think that would be. They're just behind, you know? Planes and cars both these days are really behind. So I think we have enough information. Even if that didn't load in there correctly, we know what to do. We know what approach to make. We know how to take that bank turn. That's important. You don't want to get to the runway at the end and then go, oh shit, what do I do? How do I land? How low do I have to be? That's not a situation you want to be in. So here. We're going to engage the autopilot. Yeah, we know the parking brake's on. AP and YD are off. Our separators on. Stall heaters are on. I don't know what AP and YD is. Autopilot's is on. Oh yeah, AP on, but YD off. I'll go yaw damper. Okay, yaw damper's off. We don't want the yaw damper. We don't need it. We're flying manually. We would need it, but we're not going to be doing that. So all of the flight will be mostly done with the computer. So now that we have autopilot on, we're going to tell the plane what altitude to climb to. So if we don't know, remember, we can go into our computer here, scroll up on the flight plan, if it'll let me. It's so weird. Hold on. So we know we need to, by the first waypoint, we need to be 3,550 foot. We don't want to stop there. It's only 17 nautical miles away from us. Then 13 nautical miles away from there, then 11. So in reality, we're just going to go right on to about 8,400 foot. And even if we decided to go at 300 or stay at 3,500 foot, the FAA get pissed off at us if we did that. We're going to essentially buzz the town if we do that. So we're going to climb right to 8,400 foot straight away, because it might take us 13 nautical miles just to get to that altitude, and then we can go from there. So let's do that, and then once we reach that, we're going to go ahead and start our climb. We'll increase that altitude to 8,400. So we'll go 3550, and then we'll go right to 8,500. So for now, let's just do. Oh, it's vertical speed. Let's not do that. You gotta set altitude first. These things are really picky. And you'll see this little speed on top here to 800. We're gonna go 3,500. And this is not hard nose. You're not going to get smacked around for being 1,000 foot above this. As long, I mean, 1,000 foot below maybe, but as long as you're around this area. So we got the altitude set. I'm going to go ahead and get the flight director on screen. This gives us a better idea of what the plane's going to be doing. It gives us some predictive, because the attitude meter, which is your position relative to the horizon, is in yellow, but the purple is going to tell us what the plane is going to do. It's kind of nice to have. Let's go ahead and turn vertical speed mode on. This is going to tell the plane at what rate to accelerate. We're going to do 1,900 foot per second. 2,000 foot. Now navigation mode is important. Nav mode is going to take us to all of these waypoints on our screen automatically. We don't want that on right now. We're on the runway. If we have it on right now, we're going to take it off. This plane's going to want to go with this, piss and vinegar. The plane's going to want to turn to those waypoints as we're taking off, and that can be very dangerous because we can do a wing strike on the ground, or even if we, if we go up too fast, we can do a tail strike on the ground. We have to get above a certain level to where we have our flaps can go fully up, which will drop our altitude and it'll speed us up, as well as our landing gear. So, parking brake off. I'm going to double check that we're still engaged in autopilot. We got an altitude set. Once we reach it, we need to go ahead and go to 8,500. Let's not forget that. We got a vertical speed set. Onto our waypoint, the plane will be turning right. We're going to be going out a little bit, and it's going to do a heavy bank turn towards Kazi. That's okay. Let's go ahead and get this show on the road. What in the hell is it doing? Alright, there we go. The plane's acting kind of strange. It's acting normal now, but it was like tail heavy there for a second. That's so weird. This game has got some problems. Okay, 3,500 foot. We're going to go ahead and landing gear up. It's going to create some drag. We're going to manually fly to our. Let's see here. Yeah, looking good. Go ahead and get the. Now check this out. If we put the flaps down, or put the flaps up, we're going to lose lift. It's going to straighten out, and then it's going to speed up.
Sierra Alpha, acknowledge last transmission. Going to 119.7 Dayer Golf, okay. Sierra Alpha.
So we're high enough now. I feel comfortable with getting to nav mode. You turn nav mode, the plane's just going to start doing its own thing. And that's okay. Don't be afraid of it. It's autopilot. What we need to do right now is watch our altitude, and we need to watch our speed. Too fast, you damage the airplane. Too slow, and you just fall right out of the damn sky. So, look at that. The plane's it's already made that heading. It's already facing where it needs to be faced. So we're golden. Okay, we're getting close to our 3,600 foot setting we set. Our speed's good, if not a little slow. Very pretty. Now it should get to it's going to slow down once it gets close to that 3,600 foot setting we have for it. I'm going to go ahead and, how close are we to the nearest, let's see here, can't zoom this in a little bit. Okay, so we don't have to be 8,000 foot until about Kazi anyway. So we're gonna stay put. Just gonna watch our speed. Look, Mom, no hands. They say planes fly themselves, but I mean when you're flying a plane, like I said before, you're just a really fancy systems administrator. You're just telling it what to do, essentially, and then it'll get to a point in the flight to where you can just have a sandwich and do nothing. Wow, look at that. I want to go to Martha's Vineyard. That looks nice. Okay.
Vineyard Tower, generic November 85 Delta.
Let's go ahead and turn off the initial separator. So what the initial separator does,
generic November 85 Delta Alpha cleared for takeoff runway 24.
That's other people getting on the radio there. So what the initial separator does is that when you're sitting on the runway, a lot of shit gets sucked in, dirt and debris gets sucked into the engine. It just burns it off. I think it might, correct me if I'm wrong, it might burn the fuel a little rich to do that. We're going to turn that off. I don't need that on. Stop that nagging. So we're halfway to our first VOR. We can start accelerating. We can start kind of getting higher altitude here very, very shortly. Just gonna watch our speed. Looks like our engine's getting a little warm too. Yeah, let's start accelerating, or sorry, climbing altitude. So let's increase to 8,500. Give it some more speed. Turn altitude holds on. Let's turn that off, and now it should begin our climb. That probably disabled our vertical speed mode. Yeah, it sure did. Let's go ahead and get that back on. Back up to 1900. The plane was smart enough to realize once it actually got into our altitude, it went ahead and turned speed hold mode on, and it kept our altitude hold mode on. It let us stay at that altitude automatically. Pretty smart stuff. I thought that the next waypoint, Avon, was something like 11,000 feet we need to be at. After that, we're going to hit our cruise altitude, which I'm not even sure what the hell our cruise altitude is even supposed to be, if I'm honest. Losing some speed. I'm gonna some more throttle. This is about as much work as we'll do. Once we hit cruising altitude, we can get our speed set, and we're done for a while. It's only a 30-minute flight, so you can't sit back too long. We should have been at the 8,500 foot already. That's fine. We're right next to that waypoint anyway. There's no mountains. There's no hills. We're not going to crash into anything. If we're going to crash, it's going to be my stupidity that crashes. It's nothing else. Very cool. Pretty unbelievable to think how far we've come. Alright, there's our altitude, so I want to pay attention to this. I believe it's going to turn off vertical speed mode, and it's going to switch over to altitude hold mode when it hits that 8,500. But you know what? We're already halfway to the next VOR, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell it to go ahead and go to 11,000.
Generic Golf Alpha Juliet 827 cleared for takeoff runway 24.
And there's our second climb.
Cleared for takeoff runway 24, generic Golf Alpha Juliet 827.
And after Avon, we probably can go ahead our cruise. I'd have to see the flight plan. In real life, you'd have a printout. You can actually pause this for a second, take a look at that flight plan real quick. Yeah, so 14,000 foot by Kasi. It looks like we're having a cruise altitude of 16,000 foot, so that's not bad. And it's a short flight, that's why. This plane can do a lot higher than that, double that really. So we're actually pretty low. We're getting to about where we should have been a little while ago, so that's fine. In real life, I don't think anyone would make a stink about being a little low. Just go right on to cruise. I tell you what, we're going to skip the cruise because this is getting kind of boring. I'm putting you all to sleep, I'm sure. Let's see here. Travel to. Let's go ahead and travel to the approach. Because taking off and landing is the best part about this, honestly. If you're making a 3-hour flight, once you're in the air, assuming the weather's good, there's nothing to do. Consequentially, though, all the accidents, well, most accidents in aviation happen during takeoff and landing. And the overwhelming majority of those are not fatal. Absolutely no reason to be afraid flying. Alright, so let's... Oh, man. It's really screwed us up here. Let's go ahead and get autopilot back on. Well, it's engaged, but maybe navigation mode is not there. Let's do buttons started.
Golf Sierra Alpha, did you copy?
Yep, I hear you.
134.3 for Dayer Golf Sierra Alpha.
Nav mode on. Alright, let's watch our speed. Get us back on track, computer, please. So the nearest waypoint is pins. We need to be so by the time we get the ESJ VOR, we need to start a descend of about 12 miles, 13. 2,000 feet every here, 17, and 5 from there, and then 10. So realistically, we actually, because look at this, there's 12 nautical miles and 13 for the next waypoint, very, very close to each other, and they want us to drop in 1 nautical mile 3,000 foot. We're not going to do that. We're gonna at ESJ, we're going to drop down to the 5,000 foot. So ESJ is where we're going to start our approach, essentially. We're actually above our cruise altitude right now. Well, no, we're not. We're just right at it. Okay. So ESJ, and then we should have visual reference at ESJ of the runway, or at least the airport. So we'll drop down ESJ. This thing's so buggy. ESJ's coming up soon too. Shit. So when we're at cruise, oh my god, this thing's not working at all. We don't have time for this shit. Shit, we got 9,000 feet to drop. All right, let's go ahead and just get going. I have an idea roughly of the rate, about 200 foot a second. We need to start dropping. So we're going to go ahead and engage vertical speed mode again. We're going to bring it down, not up, to about 200 foot a second. We're going to let out the accelerator because we're going to gain speed as a result. Our ESJ, we're too damn high. We got to really start bombing. Let's take this down. Let's really steep drop it. Perfect. That rate looks pretty reasonable. We need to get to about 5,000 feet, whatever. I'm from Kentucky, leave me alone. And I'll tell you what, that descent looks really good, really healthy. Your coffee wouldn't be all over you. And speed looks good. Nav mode is on, which we probably want to turn off at the very end. Alright, so what's the next waypoints past ESJ? All jacked up. CV and then SACs. And the waypoints are they're literally just these white antennas sticking out of the ground that are used for planes. Radio stations, weather stations typically are used for them as well. They're just reference markers. So it looks like it SACs. We need to be below 5,600 foot. ESJ, 10,000 foot. We're on path to make that pretty easily. Okay, 13 nautical miles from CV. Okay, so I was a little mistaken earlier. I thought it was 1. I was doing the wrong kind of math. We're doing just fine. Let's zoom out and see like how it's gonna navigate us into the runway. It's going to loop us around. And as I recall, it's not a perfect... Normally, like I said earlier, we would have adjusted this, and I actually probably would have changed from SACs to TEB right on through, right on down to the runway. That would have made a lot more sense to do it that way. I wonder if we could actually do it while we're in here. I go to flight plan. I can go to, because we want to put it after SACs. So let's go to SACs. And we can go insert after TEB. Enter. Boom, look at that. SACs, and look at that. Now look at the map. Now this is going to properly loop us around for that runway. So, and it's going to give us a, oh look, 3 foot. It doesn't know any better. So we're going to drop down to about, that's really close, about 2,000 foot right there. We can change that altitude, 2,000 foot. Bingo. And now we have a better path to the runway. I'm pretty sure we looked at the diagram and the flight plan, and that was the correct runway. Was the runway on the right, wasn't it? Oh shit. Let's do what we do in real life. Let's let the plane do its thing. It's gonna get down to 5,500 foot. Oh wait a minute, that's just 100 foot, isn't it? That's bad news. Let's yeah, good catch. Let's tell it to stop accelerating. Around 5,500 foot. Yep, right there. Alright, plane's starting to act normal now. Nav mode's on. There's our held altitude. It's actually probably going to go up a little bit to do altitude matching, which is because altitude hold is on. So now we just need to watch our speed a little bit. Let the plane do its thing. I'm not too worried about it. And let's check our flight plan. See what runway. Alright, so it's the runway on the right and there's runway on the left. Let's go and see the here's Sky Vector. Marth's Vineyard. Let's go back to airports. Check our status here. Yep, we're doing really well. So, and KEW. Yep, KEWS. Was it K? Was it? My short-term memory is so bad. WR. Yep. All right, there's New York, right? So, come down here. PDF. Okay. I believe we set the runway. It's going to be on that right. So it's going to be the right runway. Nope, runway 11. Which one's runway 11 though? Let's double check our speed. Doing good. So if we go back to here, we can go back to that airport, right? And then we can go to the RNAV approach on runway 11. Or how about we just go to airport diagram? Boom. 22R. Let's see here. This is confusing. I really don't see where it says the runway's name. $22 will be set, right? So there it is. Okay, yeah, there it is. 22 right. What do you know? R's for right. No shit. Cool. So we have the correct runway selected. Like I said, normally you'd have printouts all this stuff, and you should have been able to find that pretty easily, but there's some extra challenges in dealing with the flight simulator. So, let's see here. At SACS, we want to be 5,600 foot. Bingo. At TV, we want to be 2,000 foot. We actually want to make sure we start descending right at this waypoint. And navigation mode should turn us on this heading. Right now, with 242 degree heading. It's going to turn us here shortly. So. Nav mode is on. There it goes. So this is enough knowledge. You know, you can fly a plane, but this is the basics. This is touching. This is really just skimming the surface. One thing I want to try to do is an ILS landing, which is ILS antenna. You have two different ILS antennas on most runways that are certified for ILS. There's a few different certification levels for ILS, or instrument landing systems, and you're going to see these red antennas before a runway, and there's two signals that lock into the ILS systems of the plane. And you'll see up here something called heading mode. We turn heading mode on, we set a couple other things, and we can tell the plane to prepare for a ILS approach. And what will happen is, as soon as it gets close to that airport, it's going to lock into those two signals, and the antenna systems are attached to computers, and the computers are going to tell the plane's computers exactly how to land. And it's funny because the hardest thing about flying is knowing how to use the systems. The flying part itself is, you know, you got rudder, you got ailerons, you got flaps, which I describe flaps as kind of like birds' wings. You know, a bird comes down, land, they put up their wings out like this. Essentially, they're just creating they're creating lift themselves. It slows them down enough so they can actually touch down, and that's all flaps do. And when it comes to small planes like this is a commuter plane. You know, it might store like 12 people, 16 people, something like that. There's only a few different modes of flaps. There's landing, takeoff, which is full flaps. Or sorry, landing's full flaps, takeoff is partial flaps. But in big commercial jumbo jets, there are actually flaps, slots, and slats, and you'll have several settings, and it's a lot more involved. But the concept is the same. So we're going to go ahead and throttle down, and then make sure vertical speed mode's on, and we're going to start slowly descending. We got plenty of time. We're going to run that 2,500 foot, but we're going to do it slowly. We don't want to buzz the town, you know, create noise pollution, and we got plenty of time to do so. It's complaining about something. Yeah, we know we're going below our setting. So let's set to 3,500. That's going to disable vertical speed mode, which is frustrating, but the system can't handle everything, so there we go. We're decreasing slowly because we're still pretty far out from that waypoint, so we don't really need to feel a reason to bomb the plane down to a low altitude right now. See if we can't see the airport from here. Yeah, you can kind of see some planes in the distance. I gotta say that we're getting kind of low for comfort. I might opt to stay a little higher. Nah, it's 500 foot. We're high enough. We're not going to cause any problems. Okay, I stand corrected. We can't serve 16 people. I'm thinking of a different plane. It's like 6. This is a pretty advanced plane for only storing 6 people. The 747s and the 737s are ancient. Technology is terrible. Actually, it makes it a lot harder to fly them because everything is so manual. I mean, you don't have a big screen. This doesn't even have a touchscreen in it, and this is way more advanced than the Cessna Citation business jet that I fly around a lot. This is a really advanced plane compared to that. Which I need that because I'm a flight noob. So, more systems I can rely on, the better. Okay, so looks like we got TEB coming up very shortly, and then that's it. So we need to go ahead and get to our approach altitude. Take a look at the flight plan real quick. I have enough time for that. Let's get back to the plane. We'll be taking a turn here shortly. Okay, so we got TEB. Oh, here comes our turn. Okay, and then we, let's zoom in real quick. Shit. Yeah, we're gonna go toward a set altitude. The runway was like 300 foot off the ground, so it's not very tall, not a very high up elevation here. This is very low. Speed's a little low. We're going to speed up a little bit. We're going to need the extra speed anyway as we prepare for our descent. There's New York City. That means we're really close to Newark. Newark's right on the other side of New York City, so. Looking a little rough, I gotta say. Terrain data hasn't loaded in properly. This game can either be very ugly or very beautiful. Alright, there is our final approach. We're going to start. I'm actually going to disable, as soon as this turn is made, I'm going to go ahead and disable autopilot and manually land the plane because we're not doing an ILS landing. So, it's done manually, unless you're doing ILS. Alright. Yeah, I know the engine's a little warm, I get it. Alright, let's go ahead and start down to our descent. We're actually going to use vertical speed mode for now. Nope, we're disengaging autopilot. Let's get to our altitude about 2,000 foot. Let's keep our speed up because we're actually gonna need our speed. Yeah, we know the altitude. Turn it off. Bug off. Because we're about to hit the full flaps. And here's what I should have done last time. Tells you about landing gear, right? You have to. If you put your flaps down, there's no landing gear. It's going to tell you about it. You know, it didn't happen last time. That's what caused the crash. We're a little bit left of the runway. Our speed's really good. Maybe a little slow. Landing gear is looking good. Actually down for once, thank God. Okay, we're about the 2,000 foot we can hold for now. We're going to yaw a little bit. I like to use yaw for landing. I don't like to use aileron for landing because you get all wobbly with aileron and you start to get to a roll. And if you get into a Dutch roll, that could cause an aborted landing or missed approach. And then you had to go to a missed approach pattern, which we didn't actually set up, you know. Hey, I'm a flight noob. That's my excuse for everything. But the rudder trim is under this number. It'll let you line up a little bit better without getting into a wobble. And what a Dutch roll is, it'll roll and then it'll autocorrect, and then you'll try to correct it yourself, and then it'll roll even worse, and you'll get into this wobble. And that's really bad news. That could cause an accident. That can cause missed approaches. It's bad. So at this point, we're gonna start paying attention to the PAPI lights that are on the runway. We can't see them yet. You're gonna see 4 horizontal lights. Ideally, we want one of them to be pink. If they're all white, we're too high. If one of them's pink, we're good. If they're all pink, you better pull up because you're gonna crash the damn airplane. So all these systems that are here to help us with this process. And there's no wind here either, so this is really good for me. Because if I was a pilot in real life, I would only be qualified to fly in clear conditions, daytime. So I would have not yet. You have to practice. The simulator's one thing. It's fantastic. It's a great tool. It's not the real thing, and it's not a substitute for the real thing. It's just it's a good guide for the real thing. Okay, so we're gonna see if we can't find the PAPI lights. I don't see them yet. And it's daytime, so it might be hard to see them anyway. Our speed's a little low. We're going fine. Yep, you see how the pipey lights? See how we got one red? That means we're doing really good. Okay, let's keep that one red for us. Yep, there's one red. That's what you want to aim for. That means we're coming really well. And it's going to get more red as we get lower to the ground. That's just fact. Okay, we're going to ease up the accelerator and we're not rely so much on the yoke. We're going to let the plane naturally kind of drift down on its own and go into a glide. And as we close the runway, we're going to do what's called a flare, where we actually pull completely horizontal to the runway and then drop additional throttle. And that makes for a pretty smooth landing. And there's the flare, and we're down. Beautiful. That's a good landing. Alright, so, and here's where you normally would taxi to the gate, but we don't have a gate set, and you can actually set a gate. And we get ground services, refuel, request touch and go, talk to ATC, do what we have to do. We actually never even tuned to Newark, so we didn't even tell them we were going to land here. That's a big no-no. But, you know, working what we've got to work with, so. And here's where you typically would taxi to the gate, obviously. Let your passengers go. And you can look at the map of the airport. It's available in this game as well. It's available on all the sites I showed you. You can see where the actual gate's at. We're just gonna pull up here. Hey, we didn't crash this time. That is a success. Not crashing and dying is that's a successful journey. So, well, I tell you what, that's it. That's Flight Noob 3. We're getting better every time we play this game. I got more stuff to show you, and I'm gonna keep learning, and that's the idea. Hopefully next time we'll have an ILS landing, and we'll just let the damn plane land itself, hands off. Maybe even turn the fog on, test it out. So, thanks everybody for watching.